My name's Craig Earl, I'm Senior Market Analyst at Oanda. Today we're going to talk about dollar CAD. Now, I think this could or has the potential to become a really interesting pair. We've seen some interesting moves developing in recent weeks. At one stage, this was looking like a bit of a frustrating currency pair, but it does seem that it's starting to following the narrative that we're seeing elsewhere, and that is primarily one of a weaker US dollar. Now, during the period in which oil was slipping back towards the lows we saw just before Christmas, we weren't necessarily seeing that narrative flow through to this currency pair, and that is simply because Canada is a major oil producer and exporter, and therefore it tends to be impacted by the movements in oil also. What we've seen more recently, which has made this more interesting, is the fact that the US dollars remain weak, but oil has rebounded, and that has benefited the Canadian dollar. So now we're trading back at the lows of this rising channel. So we're entering a period of significant interest as far as I'm concerned here. In terms of actual levels, around 131 looks quite interesting to the downside. We've got the rising channel, which I'll admit has been imperfect until now. We have some breaches of this channel briefly, which we should be aware of if we do see a breakout again, but we can see the overall trend has been quite clear. And for that reason, 131 looks like an interesting level to the downside, and I feel like it's a level that the market's going to be paying attention to. But really, it's a break of 130 that will suggest to me that we've broken enough out of this range that the market is following through, you could say, on this move. But 130, a breakthrough here, is also a break of a key psychological level, which, as we know in the markets, can be quite significant. Also, above here, we've got 133 and 134. These are the previous highs. A breakthrough here would suggest that the market has rotated. Maybe sentiment towards the US dollar has shifted. Maybe we've seen a movement in oil, or maybe it is just something more fundamental. The Bank of Canada, for example, becoming more dovish, which in this particular environment would not come as too great a surprise. So if we see a breakthrough that kind of 133, 134 region, then perhaps that would suggest we're heading back towards the top end of this range. But at the moment, for me, the base case is that we are going to continue to see this come under pressure. I feel like oil is potentially has a little bit further to run, which could continue to support the Canadian dollar, and the US dollar continues to look weak. So the bottom of this channel really looks potentially weak for me. It's just a case, obviously we have to wait and see how long that potentially takes to break, and if it does, because things can change over time. But I think we're seeing a lot of pressure on the bottom of this channel right now, and the potential is for this to break to the downside, and a break of 131 and 130 more significantly would be a clear signal of a sentiment shift in this pair, and that could coincide again with that higher breakout in oil.